Welcome everyone, Costin here with one of the most ridiculous turn 1 situations of any campaign in Total War Warhammer 3, Immortal Empires, and of course I'm talking about Khazrak, the one-eyed of the Beastmen. He starts at war with the Wood Elven faction in the north over here who control a tree. They have two armies, one of which you can defeat on the field of battle very quickly. You will always ambush this army, by the way, every time you go up against them. But then you have the ability of attacking their tree on turn 1 as well. And you can win that battle if you're careful, though unfortunately you won't be able to bring your Brave Shaman into it because you just won't have enough movement points. So attach him to the army, deal with the army here, then attack the forest, then obviously detach the Brave Shaman, attack the forest, take it over. But this is a fairly difficult battle. These guys do have some Glade Guard, Way Watchers, both of them have Way Watchers in their armies, so it can be fairly substantial. You could wait one turn, spend one turn in encamp stance, get yourself some Ungor Raiders, get the hero, and then attack the forest, because they won't actually get more units over here until turn 3, because after the end of turn 1, that's when they're going to start recruiting units, and it's going to be turn 3 that they actually get more units in this army. You kind of want to eliminate these guys very quickly. If you can't eliminate them on turn 1, maybe it's not the best idea to actually play this particular campaign, because it's going to set you back in a significant fashion. Obviously you could wait a turn, that would work, but if you're not killing these guys on turn 2 at least, then that is going to create major issues, because you're just giving them time to recruit entire stacks, and they are just going to have a much better army than you. You do, however, have advantages, because Khazrak has a ridiculous level of ambush success chance. Faction-wide benefits: he gets 15% ambush success chance, an evasion chance when using the beast paths of plus 15%, a dread cost of minus 15% for all unit capacity. You can get more units quicker than the other legendary lords, unless we're talking like Minotaurs for Tarax, so he has to make a decision with that. Then his lord effects: he gets one-eyed, which reduces bestial rage penalties and increases reduces detection chance for the AI when in hidden encamp stance. So you're in a forest, so that alone gives you a higher ambush success chance, and because of the lord effects, you'll have basically 100% or close to 100% when you're in encamp stance. You also get poison attacks for all Ungor units, Vanguard deployment for Razor Gores, Vanguard deployment for Bestigors as well. And you start with a unit of Bestigors and Razor Gores over here, and a couple of Ungor units. The Ungor Spearmen, completely worthless in an army, but the Ungor Raiders with poison attacks, certainly much more powerful. His special skill line gives him further benefits in ambushes: melee defense, ambush success chance, melee attack, a reinforcement range plus 50%, chance of intercepting an army that is trying to use the underway beast paths or world routes, melee attack for Ungors, Gores, Bestigors, and charge bonus, missile strength plus 15% for Ungor Raiders, bonus to infantry and charge bonus for the Chaos Warhounds, Razor Gores, and Harpies, as well as a magic item success chance of stealing one post-battle, and drop chance. Causes fear when fighting against humans, causes terror when fighting against the Empire. Then you get the choice between Feral Fervor or Rune of the True Beast. I'd say Rune of the True Beast is the better choice, because missile resistance is pretty significant for the Beastmen, though of course vigor loss reduction of minus 33% can also in its own right be pretty substantial, as is 10% missile strength. But personally I would always go for Slug Skin if I'm playing Khazrak. Though he probably is the most unpopular of the Beastmen legendary lords, but you do actually have a lot of potential. Like, just defeat this army, take the forest on either turn 1, turn 2, and your situation is going to get a lot easier in this campaign. This isn't a hard early game campaign, it's a hard turn 1 campaign. After that, it becomes significantly easier. You start at war with Middenland and with Karl Franz. Now, Karl Franz, when controlled by the AI, obviously starts with the entirety of the Reichland. And you also have a bunch of other factions around you. The Imperial factions are going to hate you. You might get along well with Festus. You might actually get along well with the Black Pit tribe, though more or less every other faction around you does hate you with a very high amount of aversion, minus 100 aversion. So you're likely going to end up at war with them. But how do you deal with that situation? Well, you put a Hearthstone here. It's the most ideal one, because surrounded by trees, high ambush success chance. You put a Hearthstone over here. You start recruiting units, and then you go for Norland. You should be able to wipe them out with ease, but something to bear in mind over here when you're dealing with that is that Karl Franz Since you're the only faction he starts a war with, he's obviously going to attack you. He's going to go from Middenland, he's going to come and attack you. Boris Todbringer is not really going to be a major threat in your campaign because he has to deal with Festus, he has to deal with the Black Pit tribe that he starts a war with as well. So the chances of Boris actually attacking your Hearthstone are not necessarily high. Though, just bear in mind, it can happen, so you need to be worried about that. I'd probably say taking the settlement, or one of these settlements, the Hearthstone here in the forest covers the entirety of Nordland, and the Black Pit, the Middenheim, as well as Weissmund over here in the south. Now, you can get a lot of Marks of Ruination over here, probably not 59, but still you can get certainly over... you can get a ridiculous amount of Marks of Ruination in this campaign by just waiting for Karl Franz to attack you. And running to Nordland, taking out one of their settlements, maybe even their capital, or taking their minor settlement here. They'll try and resettle it. Like taking the settlement out, then moving back to deal with Karl Franz. You have a very high ambush success chance in your campaign. So obviously dealing with that is very, very doable. Like Karl Franz, you'll always see him coming, because when you put the Hearthstone, you'll get a good amount of vision on the surrounding area, and Karl Franz has to take at least 3 turns to actually attack you in his campaign. So you have plenty of warning and you have plenty of flexibility, but I would take these elements one at a time. If Nordland resettles them, that's actually good, because more Marks of Ruination. And basically you can play this game where you just wait for Karl Franz to attack you, you get a lot of Marks of Ruination. He'll do this again and again and again. Now, you want to get a lot of Marks of Ruination, let's say at least 24 over here, or, well, 25 anyway, to unlock an extra army capacity. And once, or just to get the ridiculous, because you do start with at Ruination level 1 in this campaign already. So you just want to get to Ruination level 2, so that means getting 24 Marks of Ruination. You can go get over 30. That's your first Hearthstone, just kill Karl Franz's armies again and again. The first army he sends is the one that's going to slow you down the most, because basically if you take the forest here on turn 1, then you march on Nordland, you won't be able to take down all of Nordland by the time he arrives. It's quite unlikely, so you're going to have to march back, deal with him, but then it's going to take him quite a few turns for him to send another army, so you can deal with all of Nordland over here, maybe even go try your luck against Middenheim, though chances of dealing with Middenheim, even though it's a tier 1 settlement, well, that will be a difficult battle. Regardless of what you choose to do, where should you put your second Hearthstone? Well, if you get the second army and you feel confident in it, and maybe you'll unlock some Regiments of Renown as well by getting a high level of experience on Khazrak, you can go put it directly in Altdorf. The benefit of doing that is that Altdorf will give you a unique Hearthstone, and obviously it affects all of the settlements over here in the Reichland itself, and also a settlement in Talabecland. So putting it here, yes, it will be vulnerable. I would always recommend in these Beastman campaigns to get higher levels of Hearthstones so that you can get a higher garrison, a stronger garrison. But put it in Altdorf, raise the Reichland to the ground. Or if you want to take it more slowly, safer in a lot of ways, you could put your second Hearthstone in Arnau, or you could put it in Gorsel, if you so desire, though that would obviously require going to into a war with Bretonia, but also there's quite a few settlements available here. Probably the safer choice would be this settlement over here controlled by Marienburg, then raise all the other settlements here, get a lot of Marks of Ruination, deal with Marienburg's armies, deal with Marienburg itself, and then unlock an extra army, maybe even enough dread to get another legendary lord at that stage. Like, you can take your time in this campaign, because that time, it actually suits you. Because Festus does need some time to deal with Hochland, Talabayam, put pressure on Middenland. So if you're taking your time, you will actually get some help from Festus in this particular campaign. And you may even want to ensure that Festus actually does take Middenheim in his campaign, because that would obviously give him a significant amount of power. So you might want to avoid Middenheim over here. You can still get a lot of Marks of Ruination just by the armies that will attack you, and also dealing with the Black Pit greenskins, or potentially allying them if you so desire, though these minor greenskin factions don't make for great allies in any campaign. You want to ally legendary lords, usually speaking, during the course of campaigns. The only one that you could ally over here is Festus, and don't necessarily expect him to really like you in his campaign. But either way, once you've dealt with the Reichland, you have whatever choices you want. Another unique Hearthstone is in the Dwarven capital. That is pretty far away, but it would be worth going there if you want to expand. There is a list of unique Hearthstones, of course. You could obviously decide to invade Avalor and put one in the Oak of Ages. Just go directly in the Oak of Ages, put it there, deal with everyone. I believe that is also a unique Hearthstone as well, of course. So lots of benefits if you're going for that. So you could take Reichland and go over here. Though, of course, dealing with Durfu is very, very difficult because you just don't really have a good counter for him with your base units. Of course, if you're unlocking some of the higher tier stuff, then that would be a benefit. I'd probably deal with Bretonia in this particular campaign. Maybe a Hearthstone over here. Like once you've dealt with the Reichland, maybe just not raise Marienburg to the ground. So put a Hearthstone here, and then bypass Marienburg. Put one in Cologne, because this would give you a bunch of settlements over here that you could take. And raise to the ground and get Marks of Ruination. Don't go west because you obviously don't want to deal with Ulfuan. And just more Hearthstones again and again. Kill Kemmler or ally Kemmler if he's willing to do so. Most factions really do hate the Beastmen, so you got to be careful in your campaign plan and how you expand, because you got to expect that the vast majority of factions that you encounter will declare war on you. The Hearthstones can take a huge punishment. They can deal with armies, but if you have a Legendary Lord throwing full stack at them, the chances of surviving that is fairly low. So you need to be careful and you need to be smart about it. Tarox's campaign is very aggressive because he gets a lot of benefits for being aggressive. The other Beastmen Legendary Lords, you actually get more benefits for being strategic, playing a more defensive campaign, being smart about it, and picking your fights. And getting a lot of Marks of Ruination. Once you get enough Dread, once you unlock enough units, things obviously do change. Like, especially once you get to Ruination level 3, that is a ridiculous level of power that you will obviously get in your campaign. But just really difficult turn 1, much easier from there on. Just be careful about what you decide to do, where you decide to go. There's obviously benefits with Oak of Ages, there's obviously benefits with Dwarven Capital, and Confederation-wise, you should always confederate. Tarox can obviously be a significant Confederation benefit in your campaign if you are confederating him. But also Malagor can be a really good caster. Mogre can be pretty decent as well. Like, getting all of them obviously should be one of your main goals. Don't increase your hero capacity in your campaign. Get the other Legendary Lords first, then worry about increasing hero capacity when you're playing these campaigns. Other things that I would recommend getting, item-wise, getting the battle-scarred Ungar Raider can be a significant benefit because of the campaign movement range. The other ones, not necessarily too important, though obviously can be useful, but you have to balance it out between getting structures and getting these kind of items. Get the other legendary heroes, and get also the upgrades here. Like, if you can get Hearthstones at tier 3, that would be a significant defensive benefit. Getting Horde armies at tier 2 and increasing Lord recruit rank can always be really, really good. Don't prioritize this because the legendary lords you're getting will be a higher level usually than this, and you'll always recruit them at the level they're at. This basically applies to generic armies, and of course getting extra army capacity and just getting all of the upgrades here in general can be really significant. Like, in the most ideal scenario of a Beastman campaign, you would actually not touch the unit caps until you've gotten pretty much everything around here, or a lot of much of the stuff around here, but of course you're likely going to want to do that to get some units. I'd focus on Cast Bond can be pretty decent. Minotaur is obviously going to be pretty good as well once you unlock them, but you do need a reasonable Ruination level 4 for that in order to be able to unlock Minotaurs. But once you have Minotaurs, those are the units I would focus on. Cast Bond can be pretty good earlier than that. The units over here, all the units here, until like basically Giants and Cast Bond, are just not worth spending the Dread on unless you really have to. But the benefit in a Beastman campaign early on is that you can recruit, once you get enough levels, you can recruit a fair amount of regiments of renown, and once you unlock these units, you'll always have 1 unit capacity for those units. So you're actually not going to struggle to get at least 1 really powerful army early on in your campaign. So that's one of the reasons you don't really want to focus on getting the weaker units in the Beastman campaign and just focusing on the good stuff. And of course, the really good upgrades. And then, of course, hero capacity as well. Anyway, Costin here signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications, and stay tuned for more.